Follow me, please.
Why, look. You haven't even touched your food.
There! Now I've touched it.
It's terrible the price society demands in the name of fidelity, isn't it? I mean, what is fidelity, after all?
Not fooling around?
He kept his Alzheimer's a secret because he couldn't bear the thought of one less smile in the world. The man with the bulging eyes died at 48 in a hotel room in Mexico, alone, with 5 packs of cigarettes and a heart that finally quit. The woman who sang "Ah, Sweet Mystery of Life" was diagnosed with cancer 3 times and still kept performing. And the blind hermit who set the monster on fire? He won 2 Oscars and disappeared into a life so private that Hollywood stopped looking for him. What really happened to the cast of Young Frankenstein is the one story Mel Brooks never told as a joke. Gene Wilder, the genius who kept his goodbye a secret. Jerome Silberman, born June 11, 1933 in Milwaukee, 41 when he played Dr. Frederick Frankenstein, that's Frankenstein, the reluctantly mad scientist who screamed at his own creation and made a country laugh until it hurt.
I want to be remembered for my own small contributions to science, and not because of my accidental relationship to a famous cuckoo.
Young Frankenstein was Wilder's idea. He brought the concept to Brooks. They wrote the screenplay together, arguing, rewriting, screaming at each other until the script was perfect. Wilder insisted on black and white. The studio said no. Brooks said no. Wilder said he wouldn't do it otherwise. They shot it in black and white. Before this, Willy Wonka, the producers, Blazing Saddles. After this, Silver Streak, Stir Crazy, a career that proved he wasn't just funny. He was a comedian who could break your heart in the same breath he made you lose your mind. His third wife was Gilda Radner. They married in 1984. Then came ovarian cancer, misdiagnosed for months. By the time they found it, stage 4. Gilda died May 20th, 1989, 42 years old. Wilder spent the next 25 years fighting that disease, co-founded Gilda's Club, testified before Congress. The man who made America laugh with a monster spent a quarter-century trying to save women from the thing that took the woman who made him laugh. He married Karen Boyer in 1991. Then came Alzheimer's. He kept it secret. His nephew explained why. He simply couldn't bear the idea of one less smile in the world. August 29th, 2016.
Funny, happy in the last half. There was a lot of sadness in the first half.
83. Ella Fitzgerald singing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" in the background. He sat up and said, "I trust you. I love you." Last words. But the man who stood next to him in that laboratory, the one with the eyes, left even quieter and far too soon. Marty Feldman, the eyes that died in Mexico. Martin Allen Feldman, born July 8, 1934 in Canning Town, East London. 40 years old when he played Igor, that's Igor, the hunchbacked assistant whose eyes pointed in 2 different directions and whose hump kept switching sides.
What the hell are you doing in the bathroom day and night? Why don't you get out of there? Give someone else a chance.
Those eyes were not acting. Marty Feldman had Graves' disease, a thyroid condition that caused his eyes to protrude and become permanently misaligned. A childhood illness, a car crash, a boating accident, reconstructive surgery that didn't reconstruct enough. The most recognizable face in comedy was built by medical disaster. Before Young Frankenstein, Feldman was already a legend in Britain. Writer on Round the Horn, co-creator of the 4 Yorkshiremen sketch that Monty Python would later perform. 2 BAFTAs. He came to Hollywood because Britain couldn't contain him, and because he owed £118,000 in back taxes. On the Young Frankenstein set, Feldman improvised the hump switching gag without telling anyone. Wilder noticed it during a take. Brooks kept the camera rolling. The funniest recurring joke in the film was never in the script. It came from a man whose body had been betraying him since childhood, and who decided the betrayal itself was the joke. Mel Brooks later said Feldman smoked half a carton of cigarettes a day, 5 packs, drank enormous amounts of black coffee, and ate a diet that would have killed a horse. He was 48 years old and living like a man who didn't expect to see 50. December 2nd, 1982, a hotel room in Mexico City. He was filming Yellowbeard with Graham Chapman and Peter Boyle. He'd eaten bad shellfish days earlier, complained of chest pains that night, refused to go to the hospital, died in his sleep. 48 years old. He is buried at Forest Lawn, near his idol, Buster Keaton.
I play the part of Igor. The assistant to Dr. Frankenstein.
Married to Loretta Sullivan from 1959 until the end. 23 years. No children. The funniest eyes in cinema history closed in a hotel room 6,000 miles from home, and the man behind them had been running on cigarettes and coffee and sheer will for longer than anyone realized. But the woman who played the housekeeper, the one whose name made the horses scream, she fought longer and harder than any of them. Cloris Leachman, Frau Blücher, outlasted them all. Cloris Mary Leachman, born April 30th, 1926 in Des Moines, Iowa, 48 when she played Frau Blücher, the sinister housekeeper whose very name made horses whinny in terror, every time, without fail. That gag never gets old, and the reason it never gets old is because Leachman played Frau Blücher with such dead serious commitment that the comedy came from the collision between her intensity and the absurdity around her.
I am Frau Blücher.
She never winked at the audience, she never broke. She was terrifying and hilarious simultaneously, which is the hardest thing any comic actor can do. Before Young Frankenstein, Cloris Leachman had already won an Academy Award, Best Supporting Actress for The Last Picture Show in 1971, one of the most devastating performances of the decade. Miss Chicago 1946, a competitor in the Miss America pageant, a dramatic actress of genuine, ferocious power who also happened to be one of the funniest women alive. That combination is rarer than most people realize. After Young Frankenstein, Phyllis, her own spin-off from The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Malcolm in the Middle as the unhinged grandmother Ida, Raising Hope, Dancing with the Stars at 82, the oldest contestant in the show's history at that point. 8 Primetime Emmy Awards. 8, the most of any performer in television history at the time of her winning. A career so long and so varied.
What do you think of that word?
It's a good word. It's just how long you live.
It's not just how long you live. You've won 8 Emmy Awards.
9.
That listing her credits would take longer than some of the films she appeared in. She was diagnosed with cancer 3 times across her life and beat it 3 times. Kept working through every round. Her marriage to George England lasted 26 years and produced 5 children. One of her sons, Brian, died in 1986 of an accidental drug overdose at the age of 30. She rarely spoke about it publicly. The grief lived underneath every performance she gave after. Invisible to the audience, present in every frame if you knew where to look. January 26, 2021. Natural causes, 94 years old. Frau Blücher outlasted every single horse that ever screamed at her name, and she deserved to. Gene Hackman, the blind hermit who vanished on purpose. Eugene Allen Hackman, born January 30th, 1930 in San Bernardino, California. 44 when he played the blind hermit. Harold, the lonely man in the woods who sets the monster's thumb on fire while trying to light a cigar and pours scalding soup into the monster's lap while weeping with gratitude for the company. Gene Hackman is arguably one of the 3 or 4 greatest actors in the history of American cinema. The French Connection, Best Actor Oscar. Unforgiven, Best Supporting Actor Oscar. The Conversation, Superman, Hoosiers, The Royal Tenenbaums. A body of work so vast and so consistently brilliant that listing it feels like reading a history of American film itself. Most people don't know he was in Young Frankenstein at all. The blind hermit scene was filmed as a favor to Mel Brooks, an uncredited cameo so generous and so perfectly executed that audiences assumed the actor playing Harold was a full cast member. He wasn't. He showed up, poured soup on Peter Boyle's lap, set his thumb on fire, and left. That is star power at its most casual and its most devastating. Before any of it, Hackman was a Marine who lied about his age to enlist at 16. Expelled from drama school, a teacher reportedly told his class that Hackman wasn't suited for the profession. The teacher's name is forgotten. Hackman's is not. After 2004's Welcome to Mooseport, Gene Hackman did something almost no actor in Hollywood history has done. He stopped. Completely. No farewell tour, no final interview, no Oscar bait send-off designed to be remembered as a last act. He moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, married Betsy Arakawa, and disappeared into a privacy so total that photographers and journalists eventually stopped trying. He wrote 5 novels, rode bicycles, lived. In January 2025, Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy were found dead in their Santa Fe home. He was 95, she was 65. The circumstances were reported as natural causes, but the profound silence that had surrounded his final 2 decades made the news land with a weight that surprised even people who'd forgotten he was still alive. The blind hermit who couldn't see the monster in front of him turned out to be the cast member who saw everything most clearly, including the exact moment to walk away and the exact way to leave. Madeline Kahn, the voice that died too young. Madeline Gail Kahn, born September 29, 1942 in Boston, Massachusetts. 32 when she played Elizabeth, Frederick's fiancée, the woman who screams at a single hair being touched and then sings "Ah, Sweet Mystery of Life" after a night with the monster that apparently changed her mind about everything.
Let's turn in.
Darling!
It's been a long day. I'm sure you're very tired. I'll just pay the driver.
2 Academy Award nominations by the age of 32. Paper Moon. She played a con woman so convincingly that Tatum O'Neal had to fight for screen time with an adult who was better than everyone in the room. Blazing Saddles. Lily Von Shtupp. The Marlene Dietrich parody so perfect, it nearly eclipsed the real Dietrich in the cultural memory. Then Young Frankenstein. 3 Mel Brooks films in 2 years, the funniest woman in American cinema during the 1970s, and somehow the most underappreciated. After Young Frankenstein, Clue, where she delivered the flames on the side of my face speech that has been quoted more times than most Shakespeare. History of the World Part 1. High Anxiety. She returned to the stage because Broadway respected her voice in ways Hollywood never consistently did. A Tony nomination for The Sisters Rosenzweig. She belonged on stage. Hollywood kept trying to put her in a box that was too small for what she could do. Married John Hansberry in 1999, a man she had been with for years. The wedding was private. By that point, she already knew. Ovarian cancer, the same disease that killed Gilda Radner 10 years earlier. The same disease Gene Wilder had spent a decade fighting on behalf of every woman in America. The cruelest possible coincidence. 2 women from the same comedy family, taken by the same disease, a decade apart. December 3rd, 1999, 57 years old. How does the funniest woman in 1970 cinema die at 57? By drawing the same card Gilda drew, and losing the same game Wilder spent his life trying to change. The voice that could make a single syllable funnier than most actors' entire careers went quiet at an age when she should have had 30 more years of work ahead of her. That silence is louder than anything she ever said on screen. Terry Garr. Inga danced until she couldn't. Terry Ann Garr, born December 11th, 1944 in Lakewood, Ohio. 29 when she played Inga, the beautiful, enthusiastic lab assistant whose accent made every sentence sound like an invitation and whose presence made every scene feel warmer. Before Young Frankenstein, Terry Garr had been invisible in the most visible way possible. She was a background dancer on 9 Elvis Presley films. 9. She danced behind Sonny and Cher, behind the Smothers Brothers, on over a dozen television variety shows in the late 60s and early 70s. She was in every shot and nobody knew her name. How does a woman appear on camera for a decade without anyone learning who she is? By being the background. By being the wallpaper in rooms where other people got famous. Young Frankenstein changed that. Inga was the first role where the camera actually looked at Terry Garr instead of looking past her. And what it found was a comic actress of genuine warmth and intelligence who had been hiding in plain sight for 10 years. After Young Frankenstein, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Tootsie, which earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. One from the Heart for Francis Ford Coppola. Mr. Mom, a career that finally gave her the recognition the background never did. She was funny. She was real. She was the woman you wanted to watch, even when she wasn't the star. Then came the diagnosis, multiple sclerosis. The symptoms have been appearing since the late 1980s. Numbness in her legs, stumbling, fatigue that wouldn't lift. She went public in 2002 on Larry King Live because she was tired of hiding it. Kept working as long as her body allowed. By the 2010s, she was in a wheelchair. In 2020, she suffered a ruptured brain aneurysm. She survived. Barely. The dancer who had spent her 20s moving behind Elvis couldn't move at all anymore. In 2026, Terry Garr is 81, alive, fighting. The girl who danced in the background for a decade became the woman who earned an Oscar nomination, and then stood in front of a disease that took the dancing away one nerve at a time. She is still here. That is not a small thing. Kenneth Mars, Inspector Kemp, never stopped working. Kenneth Mars, born April 4th, 1935 in Brooklyn, New York. 39 when he played Inspector Kemp, the German police inspector with the prosthetic arm, the wooden leg, and the accent so thick it was essentially its own language. Nobody, including the other actors, could understand what Kemp was saying half the time. That was the joke. And Mars committed to it so completely that the incomprehension became the funniest thing in the scene. Before Young Frankenstein, the insane Nazi playwright Franz Liebkind and the producers, the man who wrote Springtime for Hitler and nearly shot everyone when they turned his masterpiece into a joke. 2 Mel Brooks villains in 2 films, each played with the kind of lunatic precision that makes you wonder if Mars was acting or channeling. After Young Frankenstein, something nobody expected. Kenneth Mars became King Triton in The Little Mermaid, the voice of Ariel's father, the Disney patriarch who ruled the ocean. The man with the fake arm and the incomprehensible German accent became the voice that told a generation of children to stay away from humans. That career pivot is so absurd it could only belong to a character actor of genuine, underappreciated range. He worked constantly, film, television, voice work, until pancreatic cancer stopped him. February 12, 2011, 75. The inspector who couldn't pronounce his own words left behind a body of work that stretched from Mel Brooks to Disney to everything in between. Most actors would kill for one iconic role. Kenneth Mars had 3. Peter Boyle, the monster who became everybody's dad. Peter Richard Boyle, born October 18, 1935 in Norristown, Pennsylvania. 39 when he played the monster, the grunting, stiff-legged, tap-dancing creature whose performance of Puttin' on the Ritz remains one of the single funniest scenes in the entire history of cinema. That scene should not work. A 7-foot monster in a tuxedo singing Irving Berlin through grunts while Gene Wilder conducts in a top hat. On paper, it's nonsense. On screen, it's perfection. And Peter Boyle is the reason. Before Young Frankenstein, Boyle was a serious dramatic actor who could terrify an audience as easily as he could make one laugh. Joe in 1970, a disturbing film about American rage that made him so uncomfortable with the audience's reaction that he temporarily stopped taking violent roles. Taxi Driver with De Niro, The Friends of Eddie Coyle. He was a De La Salle Christian brother before he was an actor, nearly became a monk. Then he became a monster instead. After Young Frankenstein, Frank Barone on Everybody Loves Raymond for 9 seasons. The cranky, belligerent, impossible father. 210 episodes, Emmy nominated. He worked on that show while fighting heart disease and myelodysplasia, a bone marrow disease, for years. Never complained, never missed a taping. Married journalist Lorraine Alterman in 1977. 2 daughters. John Lennon was the best man at their wedding. Read that again. John Lennon stood up for the monster at his wedding. If that isn't the most Young Frankenstein detail in real life, nothing is. December 12, 2006. Multiple myeloma and heart disease. 71. The monster who grunted and danced became the father who yelled and complained, and both performances were acts of genius disguised as simplicity. Ann Beasley, the little girl nobody forgot. Ann Beasley was roughly 7 years old when she played the little girl at the well, the innocent child who sits on the edge of a stone well, offers the monster a flower, and asks him to play a game. In the 1931 original, that scene ends with the monster drowning the girl in the water, one of the most disturbing moments in classic horror. Brooks knew every person in the audience over 40 would remember what was supposed to happen next, and he used that dread against them. Instead of drowning, the girl gets launched through her own bedroom window on a seesaw and lands safely on her bed. The audience exhales. The comedy redeems the tragedy. That is Mel Brooks' entire philosophy in a single scene. Take the thing that terrified you as a child and make it funny enough that it can't hurt you anymore. Ann Beasley's career after Young Frankenstein was almost non-existent. A handful of minor credits. No follow-up roles that matched the visibility of that single scene. She stepped away from the industry before she was old enough to understand what stepping away meant, and built the kind of private life that Hollywood almost never allows its child actors to have. No tabloid spiral, no comeback attempt, no memoir, just a life. In 2026, information about Ann Beasley is scarce. She represents the dozens of child actors whose one perfect scene in a classic film remains their permanent, unalterable contribution to cinema. The little girl at the well is still sitting there in every rerun, still offering the monster a flower, still surviving the thing that killed the girl in the original. That is a kind of immortality most actors never get, and she earned it before she turned 8. Liam Dunn, the man who died before the applause. Liam Dunn, born November 4th, 1916 in San Francisco. 58 when he played Mr. Hilltop, the old man in the crowd whose wooden arm gets ripped clean off by the monster during the town meeting scene. The reaction shot, pure bewildered outrage, is timed so perfectly that the audience is laughing before it registers what just happened. That is the work of a man who understood comic timing at a cellular level. Liam Dunn was the kind of character actor every great director keeps on speed dial. He appeared in Blazing Saddles as Reverend Johnson, the man who delivers the solemn town address while chaos erupts around him. He was in Silent Movie. He was in Young Frankenstein. 3 Mel Brooks films. 3 single-scene performances so precise they hold the surrounding movie together like stitches nobody notices. The kind of work that never wins an award and never stops mattering. Before Brooks, Dunn had been a working actor across television and film for decades. Guest spots, bit parts, the anonymous face in the courtroom or the barbershop or the church pew. The kind of career that doesn't generate a Wikipedia page but does generate a pension and the respect of every casting director in town. February 11th, 1976, emphysema, 59 years old. Less than 2 years after Young Frankenstein's release, before the film had fully cemented itself as one of the greatest comedies in American history. The man whose arm was ripped off on screen didn't live long enough to see the world decide his film was immortal. That is the cruelest kind of timing, to be part of something permanent and leave before the permanence arrives. Richard Haydn, Herr Falkstein's final act. Richard Haydn, born March 10, 1905 in London. 69 when he played Herr Falkstein, the Frankenstein family's elderly lawyer who reads the will with the kind of dry, withering British precision that makes every syllable sound like a verdict. Before Young Frankenstein, Richard Haydn had been working since the 1940s, and the roles he played before Mel Brooks ever called him are the ones that should stop you. He was the caterpillar in Disney's Alice in Wonderland, the hookah-smoking insect who asks, "Who are you?" with a condescension so total it became one of the most quoted lines in animation history. He was Max Detweiler in The Sound of Music, the charming, opportunistic uncle who tries to profit from the Von Trapp children singing while the world burns around him. A voice and a face that belonged entirely to Hollywood's golden age, the era when character actors were cast for their eccentricity, not despite it. He directed one film, Mr. Music, with Bing Crosby in 1950. He appeared alongside Shirley Temple, Audrey Hepburn, and Julie Andrews across different decades of the same career. The range wasn't just impressive, it was absurd. How many actors can say they worked with both Bing Crosby and Mel Brooks? April 25th, 1985. Heart attack. 80 years old. The lawyer who read the Frankenstein will lived long enough to see Young Frankenstein become immortal, and left before anyone thought to sit down and tell him how much his single scene in that film still mattered to people who watched it every Halloween. Sometimes the quiet exits are the ones that sting the longest. So that is the Young Frankenstein cast, then and now, and the tragedies the laboratory never contained. What happened to the cast of Young Frankenstein after the cameras stopped rolling in Transylvania is a story no comedy was built to hold. Where are they in 2026? Terry Garr, 81, alive, fighting MS from a wheelchair. Gene Hackman, gone at 95, found in the silence he chose. Gene Wilder, gone at 83, his last words, a whisper. Marty Feldman, gone at 48, alone in Mexico. Madeline Kahn, gone at 57, the same disease that took Gilda. Peter Boyle, gone at 71, still everybody's dad. And Cloris Leachman, gone at 94, having outlasted every horse that ever screamed at her name. Which one are you still thinking about? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.